Hi, my name is Missy. Again, I want to talk to you about my home backyard. I live in Arizona, and people seem to think that the soil would not be good, but it's very rich. They think Arizona is a dry place, full of dust and full of. My, and full of tumbleweeds. But that's not true. Arizona's not like that. My backyard is beautiful and it's full of trees. I have a fig tree, I have 3 lemon trees, I have citrus trees, I have grapefruit trees. I also have a bamboo, and it's 25 feet tall. I mean, I know you can't imagine it, but it's 25 feet tall. I have this yard like this because I have an irrigation system in my home area, and every few weeks I have 3 hours of time allotted for me for my irrigation. So what they do with the irrigation system is the water comes from the canal, and it comes through a special pipe into my area, and then when you open the pipe, the water comes flooding into my area. The water comes from the irrigation system, and it makes the area kind of look like a lake. So if I want to go to my car, I have to like tripe through the water, but that's okay because it's really hot. And because of that, my area's soil is very rich and it's beautiful and green. So I decided I was going to do a garden in my backyard, and I talked to my husband about it, and he said, gardening is hard work. So but I said I was going to do it. My husband said, "Go ahead," and I was all excited. I'm going to be a farmer, and so I started with my garden. So you need some special soil for this. So it's kind of like a topsoil. Before you make your garden, you have to like block out an area and have an area that's ready for your garden. And to get the garden ready, you have to take the grass off on top, and then you have to dig it out, which is a lot of hard work. So you get a machine, and the machine helps you get that grass off and the soil out. So once you have the grass off, then you need a special soil and to put there for your garden. So I had to have these dump trucks come, and they backed up into the area. But the dump truck just dumps the soil into one pile, so I have to flatten out the soil so that I can make it nice and even so I can start getting ready to plant. So I was thinking about what am I going to plant, and I thought, okay, I'm going to plant lettuce. Secondly, spinach. Third would be peppers. And the fourth is, I can't seem to remember. Oh yeah, squash. And remember, I'm a beginner. I don't know what I'm doing, so I just picked these four things. I had no experience doing this before. So I was reading the packages for the seeds, and it said for the lettuce that it grows rather easily, so you want to just spread out the seeds one and then space it and then one and then one. I was like, oh, forget about it, and I just dumped the whole package down the row. And then I did the spinach next, and I planted the seeds, and then I moved over to the row for peppers, and I planted that seeds. And then for the squash, I remember that my mother had told me to make sure that you give enough space because the squash grows really big. So space out the squash because the way they grow, it can take over the garden. And then if you put them too crowded, then they won't grow. So every morning I would get up and I had to water it because you must water it. Also, what you need to do is you need to talk to your garden. One of the negatives I've realized about having a garden is that the birds like to come around and fly around over your garden. And that's why I realized that farmers always have a scarecrow because the birds love the seeds and they're always picking up the seeds from the garden. So to get rid of the birds, what I would do is I would open my gate and let my dog out there so that they would scatter the birds away. Well, my garden was growing and my squash failed. No squash at all. And then the next row over was the red peppers, and that didn't grow very well either. The spinach started to grow a little bit, but the cabbage really took off. And you have to realize that the Arizona temperature is very like even. It doesn't, there's not a fluctuation for it. So it helped the cabbage grow. And I also realized that one of the other things that I had was insects, like ants. They would come and try to take it over like if it was their own. I was trying to figure out how not to use pesticides and have a very eco-friendly garden. Plus, on top of all that, I have a baby. So it was really, really hard work. And my husband told me, I told you it was hard work. And my hands were rough and my clothes were dirty, and it's just something I had to accept. That was part of gardening. So a month passes by, and remember I told you that I had scattered the whole package of lettuce seeds down the row? Well, it grew fully. But what that meant was that I had so much lettuce that I was eating lettuce morning, noon, and night. Morning, noon, and night. I had so much of it that I couldn't eat it all by myself. I was giving it to people, and people were telling me how wonderful it was and how fresh it tasted. I had some spinach that grew also, which was really good. No red peppers, and then I thought I didn't have any squash, but I saw that I had one squash. But the squash didn't grow right. It had holes all in it. It looked like the birds had been picking at it. So I decided that for the next time what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten out the soil again. I'm going to cover it with plastic so that I keep the soil nice and moist. And then that'll also have leave a space for the worms. And then later on I'm going to build a tent over it so that I can keep the birds out. And hopefully next year I will have a successful garden. We'll see.